Heyo everybody, Haku here with my review for Tower of God Chapter 405 or Season 2 Episode 325. Sorry this is 2 days later than usual, but with me being sick for most of this week, I kind of pushed things back. And in addition to that, I wanted to get the Haku and A up and its discussion for Tower of God and everything else. I wanted to get that up before I did the review this week. So I got that done yesterday. And that's kind of what pushed this back so long. More than anything, I mean me being sick of course, but other than that, me wanting to get the Haku and A done first. And I kind of like taking the extra day or two here and there. Of course I would love to have all the reviews up on Tuesday, but when I get an extra day, it's not only more time to take notes, but also more time for some of you in the comments to maybe point out some stuff that I just missed, or to point out some things that I missed, or even to bring up things that I hadn't really thought about. But this was a good chapter. I think that ever since late in the hidden floor, once the action and stuff started ramping up and we were getting the sworn enemy fights, we were getting the Zahard fight, Tower of God's been really, really good consistently since then. And then out of all that, this chapter in particular was really good because we had things that we had kind of known about from the beginning, but that we didn't really get to see until now. We're seeing all new things that aren't just out of nowhere new. They're things that we've known from the beginning. But I will say before I get into going through this part by part, there's probably going to be a lot of a lot of sort of side discussions that I'm going to cut to, that I think most of you will enjoy and want to hear me talk about because of this chapter anyway. But now that we've been given tiers for some of the characters this arc, that kind of lets us guess a lot and fill in a lot of blanks when it comes to tiers and power level and ranks and military ranks. Because now we know, now we have something to judge by where we're like, if these characters have similar tiers, they're probably the same strength, they're the same rank, or if they have the same rank, they're probably the same tier and the same strength. So we have this really good way of judging characters and filling in those blanks now to kind of compare characters to one another a little bit better. And I'll probably be discussing that a lot as we get to learning more about it. But I'm not there yet. First off, we learned stuff about Miseng. We had more development for Miseng. She uses Reflection in conjunction with her Berserk mode to finish off the Purple Eye Brothers, and I believe we've seen her use Reflection before, which is a really cool move itself. Add that to the Berserk mode, and Miseng is actually a really good character fighting-wise. Andrasi cheering her on was funny because I like how Andrasi's sort of taken this interest in Miseng, because they really didn't know each other before now, but now she's sort of taken this interest in her, giving her the thing to find out her Shinsu quality, and now cheering her on as she's gotten stronger. Miseng says she won't let anyone die because of her again, and Bomb seems like he knows about Akraptor and Prince, and I feel like we talked about it in a bit in the comments, where it is something that I would have wanted to see on panel, and a bunch of you were saying the same thing. But somebody also brought up that maybe Bomb just figured it out for himself. After all, Bomb isn't stupid. He can probably kind of see the way that people are acting and know that he's seen Wang and he's seen Miseng, but he hasn't seen Akraptor or Prince, so he might be able to just sort of figure things out on his own from that. So yeah, basically Bomb just isn't stupid. He might be able to figure this out on his own. So Alpathian, cutting to the really good stuff, the important stuff, Alpathian accuses Evankhell of being with FUG and betraying Zahard. But Evankhell says that she just doesn't want anyone messing with her servants. The FUG, none of that matters. They would have been fine if they didn't mess with her servants. She says that she isn't afraid of, she says this because Alpathian says, you're just speeding up your death if you go against Zahard, but Evankhell says that she doesn't fear death. She fears living in obedience to somebody else's rules. Living under someone else's thumb would be death to her. So then Sharon gathers together her team, and we see Shakul, who is a 4th tier spearman, is what they're translating spear bearer as here, and I kind of like that because it separates it a bit from light bearer. spearman, fisherman, light bearer. I think spearman's actually a good translation for that. We see Chattanua, who is 3rd tier and a wave controller. So Chattanua, I'm actually thinking being 3rd tier, I think that she might be the Fonsakal Drak of the 1st Division. Now, Fonsakal Drak is a company commander, I believe, so we don't know how many company commanders there are per division, but if there's only one Fonsakal Drak, there may also be only one Chattanua. So it might just be the 3 of them as the top 3 officers of any division, the assistant commander, the commander, and the whatever Chattanua, and Fonsakal Drak would be best translated as. But I'll get to that, and she's a wave controller. Then we have K, who is down, but we show him in the middle of showing all the members of the team, so that would make me think that maybe he's a scout, since that's the one position they're missing out of the basic 5 that we learned at the beginning of the series. Then we have Sharon, who is 2nd tier, and we learned that she's a fisherman, and Alpathian is 1st tier and a light bearer. So now here's where we can discuss tiers and ranks a bit. And it depends on where the top of this is. If the top, where there's no tier at all, is the commander, what would the commander-in-chief be? That'd be Adori. So if Adori has no level and they're all servants of Adori, then that would make Calavan 1st tier as well. But when we first saw Yulker and Tinker Yulche, they said servants of Calavan. So that makes me think that whoever the squadron commanders are, so Calavan here in the case of the 4th Squadron is, they don't have a tier. They're just the commander of the squadron. And there could be 4 squadrons, there could be up to 10, we don't know. But we also don't know if each of them have 4 divisions. But for the division commanders, if Sharon is a 2nd tier, then that means we can assume that Chonhi is a 2nd tier, and we saw way back when they were introduced that Yulker is a 2nd tier, so I think that basically confirms that the ones who went after Yu Han-sung were the one out of the 4 divisions that weren't supposed to go to the Hell Train. So that would make Yulker the commander of Division 3 or Division 4, whatever. But if the assistant commanders are also 2nd tier, that would mean that if they're also that, then that means he could be the assistant commander, but we didn't get to see the commander. But I'd like to view that as not being true. I'd like to say 2nd tier means you are a division commander. So you would have however many squadrons there are, that's how many 1st tiers you'd have, and however many 2nd tiers you'd have would be that times 4, unless there are more or less than 3 divisions. And there's also the case that tiers could mean something other than military rank. They could be strength, not dependent on rank. So you could have 1st tier division commanders, or you could have 3rd tier division commanders if that's the case. But for simplicity's sake, I would say let's just assume that the 2nd tier is what a division commander would be. So then we have the assistant division commanders. Tinker Yulche was said as a 3rd tier. So that can only be compared to the only other 3rd tier we saw was Chattanua, who obviously isn't Division 1's assistant commander, but is much more likely sort of the similar member to Fonsakal Drak. There was also a 3rd member in addition to Tinker Yulche that we saw in that first group, so that could have been the one that you can compare to Drak or to Chattanua. That could have been the 3rd man. And it's really cool if it works out kind of like a squad, sort of like if you put together the 3 top-ranking members of Division 1, you would have a fisherman, a light bearer, and a scout, I guess, if that's what we're assuming that K is, because that makes the most sense for him. And if you did that for the top 3 members of Division 2, for instance, you'd have a wave controller, assuming that's what Drak is, a spear bearer, assuming it's what Chionhee is, since she uses a just friggin' OP as hell spear, and you would have Dorian Frog, who is an anima. Now, I would think that 3rd tier covers both the rank that Drak is and also the assistant division commander, because as much as I love Dorian Frog, as much as I think he's really cool, I think his weapon that is a tank is really cool, and the Pollock summoning and everything's awesome. So I think that Dorian Frog is cool, but I am much, much more willing, even though Dorian's a high ranker, and Funsicall Drac is technically an advanced ranker, but they said something about his rank being lowered. I think that I'm much more likely to compare Dorian and Drac in strength than I am to compare Dorian and Cheonhee in strength, because that would also mean that you would be comparing Kay and Sharon in strength, and that's Kay got completely hobbited by Evankhell, and Evankhell sort of she didn't have the partial activation yet, but Sharon handled Evankhell pretty well. So I would say that I'm much more likely to think that the assistant division commanders are third tier than that they're second tier. So I think we can compare all those to one another, and it tells us a bit about their strength because we know what we can compare them to in terms of number level. So we have Evankhell, who is number 60 within the top 100, and on the way we've got Ha-Jin-Sung, again within the top 100, and also they said that, or Dorian said that White, if he had his full power, is Calavan level, and I think CU even confirmed that in the blog, that White at full power would be Calavan level. So we can assume Calavan is about the level of those three, within the top 100, I would say easily, because you would think that whoever the squadron commanders are, they're probably top 100. They're probably the strongest of the rankers that Zahard can find to work for him. Also, this kind of makes me think how weak are the Royal Enforcement Division, because Ren got completely demolished by Yuan Sung and by Yuri's group. But either way, that aside, other than that, so we can compare their strengths, and it makes it seem like Zahard's army is kind of out of their league. If they have one Calavan, comparing that to having the group of three that could be White if somehow he has his full power when he escapes, we don't know how that works. That's a long discussion on its own. But if they have White, Calavan, and Ha-Jin-Sung that are all at that crazy level, that's going to be kind of outnumbering them in a way, or out-qualitying them, even if Zahard's army has the numbers. They're really going to have to use the numbers. But that kind of makes me think we can guess some more at the rest of the people's strength levels. So I'm going to say, for sake of argument, Yuri wanted to fight Yuan Sung at one point, and Yuan Sung was said to be somewhere around 500-ish. Yuri is somewhere around 500-ish. And Karaka's been set up as kind of a rival to Yuri for the FUG side. They're both quickly rising in ranks, they're both pretty popular, and they both have this sort of, I don't know, kind of special rival relationship, but things are going really well for Yuri and really poorly for Karaka in all of their situations. So I would say around rank 500 we have the three of them. Now we know from what Yuri said that she's always looked up to Cheonhee as someone stronger than her. Cheonhee has always beat her whenever they've had just sparring battles or whatever. So from that, we can say that Cheonhee, who's a division commander, is probably anywhere from rank 200 to 400, just a bit stronger than Yuri, Karaka, and Yuan Sung. So that would mean the same thing for Yulker and the same thing for Sharon. Probably somewhere from rank 200 to 400, maybe even 100 something. So maybe even stronger than that. But I would say that's about where they are. So if that's where they are, I would say the assistant division commanders then are anywhere from maybe like 600 to 1,000. I don't know. They're still high rankers. So you'd still have like Tinker Yolche, Kay, who is somehow a high ranker, even though he just got so hobbited. He just jobbed out Evankhell so bad. And in addition to that, Dorian. So while the commanders of the divisions would be a little bit stronger than 500, I guess the assistant commanders would be a little bit behind that. And for Elpathian, I would say Elpathian's maybe somewhere in the 100s. Like, he'd be really, really strong, but not quite the level of what a squadron commander would be, because he's an assistant squadron commander, so there can't be that many people with a rank that high among Zahard's forces. We haven't seen much from Elpathian yet, but we can assume that he is hella strong in order to have that rank when there are so many other people around. So we kind of get power levels for all those people. And then of course you got people like Chatanawa, who is probably comparative to Fonsakal Draxa, probably somewhere in the top 10,000. So yeah, that was a big off-topic discussion, but I said it was going to happen because now that we learned those tiers for those characters, we have stuff to compare them to, and we can kind of guess how strong they are, and kind of see how screwed Sahard's army is in some circumstances, given that they have the numbers pretty well, but Bomb's allies have some really, really strong members there, especially if they release Karaka and White can fight at full strength. So yeah, and we haven't even met whoever the other division commander and assistant commander is, so there's still another person out there who is Sharon or Chionhee level, and another person out there that's Dorian or Tinker Yolche level. So yeah, in addition to that, let's move on from there. Shaku uses his spear, the spirally thing from all kinds of different directions. I thought the spear skill was really cool that Shaku had, and he is a 4th tier, so I guess I don't know where that would rank in things, but his design obviously didn't have as much put into it as the others, so he's kind of more on a scrub level, but it's cool that he was part of their team. Ari Bright Sharon is shown to be a very fast and powerful needle user. She has that really cool Fairy's Light attack and actually destroys Evankhell's sword. And Evankhell mentions that she's jealous of the skill that Sharon fights at. So even her big strong attack that she's been using to defend herself, the what was it called? I think I wrote it down. The Flaming Ecstasy that Evankhell's been using to defend herself, even that was easily dodged by Sharon. But then Sharon got caught by the Susanoo, and then even when caught by the Susanoo, we get some Ari family development, which is surprising. They're skilled fighters, apparently. I don't know if it's just skilled with needles in particular, or if they're just skilled and Sharon as a person happens to use a needle. That's not super clear. But also the Ari family doesn't like war and battle, so it's interesting to have a division commander from the Ari family. And more about the family is that they don't use swords like the Ari family, to which they're related, but they do have, they have a guardian sword sealed within them or something. So she manifests her guardian sword, which is the marine fairy swords, and I think marine is referring to the color. I know that there's a lot of nautical themes in names used in Tower of God, but I think marine might be referring to the color. So she uses the marine fairy swords, basically unlimited blade works here, and she actually breaks up Evankhell Susanoo with them. So again, without activating her special partial activation that she goes into in the end, Sharon is actually keeping up with the unactivated Evankhell while also not really breaking much of a sweat or anything. She used her unlimited blade works, but she never really seemed like she was in much trouble. Then again, what's cool is we've seen light bearers, we've seen all of these different positions, but we haven't seen them at a high ranker level until now. So we see what a high ranker can do with lighthouses. With Elpathian, he just has this massive array of them and uses the Wall of Despair, which is the biggest lighthouse control area that we've ever seen. So that was really cool. And we go into a flashback. Of course, Evankhell's got to break out of it, but she has to have a cool flashback first. So Evankhell was traveling from battle to battle, killing rankers, and then she came across Yuan Sung, who was the first one to not beg for his life. And she brings up that typically rankers have gained so much power climbing the tower, having people die around them, but that by the time they're rankers, they're nearly immortal. Like what was said at the beginning of the series, rankers are gods among regulars, and high rankers are gods among rankers. So once someone's a ranker, they begin to think of themselves as immortal. But Yuan Sung tells Evankhell in the flashback that he never planned to be immortal. He never thought that he would be immortal. And that has made a lot of people theorize that Yuan Sung could actually be related to Hendelok blood matter, since people from his family don't get to live long lives. Now, I think this might just be a personality thing for Yuan Sung, so I don't think it has something to do with the Hendelok family, but it totally could. Like, I want to just be sort of a naysayer here and say, probably not. It's probably just a personality thing, but it could totally have to do with his family too. But he never saw himself as someone who was going to be immortal to begin with. And he says that someone told him before that more than death, they feared their rage fading, so he does the same. The only thing he fears is losing his thirst for change without relying on power. And I think that's really cool. Like, it's why he works with FUG. It's why he sort of uses Bomb instead of trying to succeed himself, because he himself can't do it. He needs somebody like Bomb to raise up to do it. So again, that's really cool. It explains a lot of his character's actions. And maybe the person whose rage fading is their fear could be Grace Merche Luslek, since he did end up joining FUG. It could be somebody else, but if it were Grace Merche Luslek, it would make total sense, because Grace Merche Luslek would obviously be pissed about his relative and his master both dying, being Arlen and V. He could have that rage against Zahard because of what Zahard did to V and Arlen. So yeah, that's really, really a cool flashback. So Evankhell realizes that she fears the same thing, of course. And she asks what Yuan Sung's dream is, and he says that he wants to usher in a new era in the tower. Then she enters her partial release of an ancient power, which is awesome, and that's where we cut away from that fight for now. Cheon-hee gets alerted to a fleet of warships leaving, which of course we know is Bomb's warship, surrounded by a bunch of fake decoy warships to try to block for Bomb. But the thing is, we've seen Evankhell just burning through warships like it's nothing, so Bomb's not exactly safe with Cheon-hee noticing him. Cheon-hee has this crazy array of spears that could just demolish the entire fleet, probably. So Bomb isn't really safe, even with the decoys here, which is awesome. And it becomes more and more apparent why it is that regulars even surviving on a battlefield with rankers is very, very impossible, nearly, basically. But Bomb's going to survive somehow, obviously, because he's the main character. But either way, I thought it was an amazing chapter. I love that we got Misang development. I love that we see the combat of a high ranker and how we see them working together as a team, because we learned about positions and we learned about teams just so long ago, and we've seen like rankers fighting as like this one solo badass or whatever, but it's really cool to see how the team stuff matters when you're in a really big important fight, even at a high ranker level. So it's cool to get to see that for the first time at a high ranker level. It's something completely new for the series. Also, Sharon is awesome. She's quickly becoming a favorite character of mine. I think obviously she's probably ranked 200 something, 300 something. She's likely not going to be able to stand up to Evankhell once Evankhell goes into a actual release of that ancient power. But as things were with an unreleased Evankhell, she was standing her own without really breaking much of a sweat. So Sharon was awesome. I really, really like the character. The design's cool and everything. I want to learn more about Cha Tanwa if they're Phonsakal Drac level, because we didn't get to see them get involved at all, and they had a pretty cool design. Also, Alpathian was cool with the lighthouses as well, and Evankhell's always great. So the flashback was really, really good too, because we got that on top of everything else, and we learned character motivations for Evankhell, what Evankhell fears, what Evankhell wants to do, what Yuan Sung fears, and what Yuan Sung wants to do. So that's really, really good. And then, in addition to that, we got all the cool rank and tier stuff that now we have a way to kind of judge characters' abilities by one another. So, at least for these high rankers around here and stuff. So, it'll be interesting when we get to learn how many squadrons there are, and if there is a actual set number of like 4 divisions for every squadron. that'll be really cool. And if we get confirmation that there's sort of like a top 3 for every division, like Drak, Dorian, and Chonhee are for the 1, and presumably Tanwa and the other 2, Tanwa, Kay, and Sharon, are for Division 1. And for the division we didn't get to see, how Yolker, who I'm going to say is probably the commander, Tinker Yolche, who I'm saying is probably the assistant commander, and we did actually see a third one, so we saw 3 there, and maybe that third one is what you could compare, of course, to Drak and Chatanwa. So all of that was really cool, and that's it. And as a score, I'm giving it 10 out of 10, because it gave us so much to talk about, it gave us so much information, and in addition to that, like I said, we got fights, and the fights were good. Sharon and Evankhell, that fight was really, really good. So we got Sharon and Evankhell. Not only did we get that, we got flashbacks to describe stuff from Evankhell and Yuanzung's past and what their characters want and fear. So yeah, I'm giving it 10 out of 10 because we just got so much in one chapter, and all of it was good in a variety. So that's it for this one. It's a bit long. Like if you did like the video, comment down there. Tell me what you thought of this chapter, what you thought of my thoughts on it and all that. Subscribe for more Tower of God, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there on stuff for the channel or talk to you there. And if you want a link to our Discord server to talk to me or more of us on Discord, then just ask. It's free and open for anyone. So that's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Also, quickly before I end the video, if you want more Tower of God content, I'm planning, of course, to do a Haku and A every week. But check out the Haku and A I just posted the day before this, because there's like 12 minutes or so of Tower of God discussion there too. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.